All right, welcome back. Today we are going to be again working on the Rush SR. What we're going to be doing today is putting in Racecom equipment. So this equipment here, obviously we've got the radios, we've got our end that's going to go into the radio. Okay, here we have our IMSA plug that would plug into your helmet, and this is your push to talk. So this is going to get wired up to the push to talk button on the steering wheel. It comes with Samson Racing Communications. I'm going to put a link. They're really great to deal with. You just like, again, I'll put a link to their website. You could just contact them. You can tell them that you need the John Ryman Rush SR setup, and they already have an invoice. I actually use another driver, but I'm not going to give their name. I'll just give mine. But again, you call them. They'll be able to pull my account up and tell what exactly you need in its entirety in order to be all set up. That's going to include your headset. All right, your two radios, a helmet kit if you don't already have a helmet kit for wiring up your helmet. Again, you got this connector here. This is for your antenna, so this will mount underneath your body. You'll have to drill a hole, okay, and then obviously this is going to go to the antenna itself that'll mount on your body, and you'll get this box. Hose clamps goes to your roll cage inside. I'll show you how we'll mount all this stuff up, and then obviously you just stick your radio down in there so you can pull it out and charge it as needed. Okay, don't mind this. This is for, you know, if you're an instructor and get in a student's car where you can hook up comms and speak to your student. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back and show you how to get all this stuff installed. So for starters, what we're going to do is we need to figure out where we want to mount this box. Now I've chosen that for me, I'm going to mount this box right down here. It's on the other side of the seat. You actually can't even see it, but these are just going to go around. You do have to take these apart and fit them in the box when you get it. Don't mind this, is just a light, trying to light this up a little bit here. But you'll have to take these apart and then stick them into the box, feed them back out. The holes are already made in the box, okay? But so now we are just going to open these up, get them around the roll cage, okay, just like that. Now obviously anytime you're working in here, if you're familiar with it, it can be a little tricky, but I've got an 8mm on here, so we're just going to see if we can't get these connected. Again, these can be a little finicky to get going. Let's see if we can't get them started. Gosh, one. Sometimes if you can get the end of it and just kind of bend it a little bit to get it off of the outside body shell, the ballistic panels, it'll help you get it started a little bit. Still make sure that you keep these things rotated up so you can get access to them to be able to install or remove this thing easily. Okay. to do is I want to get them fairly snugged, or you know, at least shrunk down to where there's not so much excess. And then we're going to work it down this tube here. Okay, all the way until we're basically hitting the floor. Obviously I can't move it anymore from there. Okay, I'm just going to bring it back up just a little bit. So from here I'm going to tighten it down. Now remember, if you're using a power tool, hose clamps are only going to take so much. So you know, be gentle, figure out where it's tight. That thing is not moving. And then I'm going to tuck these, bend them down in there. I don't want to cut them, because if I ever take this thing apart, I may have a tough time getting them fed back into each other. So I'm just going to manipulate these things down inside the box, maybe put some tape on them, make sure that they can't come back out easily. And then obviously the radio will be able to fit in and out of the slot and the foam. Okay, and next up is we're going to install the antenna. So it comes with this plate right here. Okay, now this plate we're going to mount underneath the body in this area here. We'll have to drill a hole, and the antenna is going to mount like this. It does specify that it should be skinny edge facing forward aerodynamically. Okay, so that's where I'm going to mount the antenna. And now the antenna, this piece here, okay, is going to be what's going up against here through the plate and through the body. And this cable is only so long. So do bear in mind wherever you're going to mount your radio that it's going to reach. In my case, this thing will go up under here. I'll be able to feed it with this loom right here, right down in, and this screws in to the top of where your antenna would be on your radio. You just unscrew your antenna, and this screws right on there. Okay. So what we're going to need is, I'm going to use a stepper bit. Okay, and so I'm going to stick this in here. I'm going to find out where I'm kind of happy with it. It's going to be favoring this edge up here a little bit. And then I'm going to stick my drill from the inside, find the hole, and actually go ahead and get the hole started. And then I could finish it from the top side. Now, there we go. I've got the hole started. Now obviously we want to make sure that it's a snug fit. And I could tell that it's going to need to open up a little bit more. So, okay. Bingo. Perfect. Okay. So from here, now the thought process is this has a tightening effect on it right here. Okay. And then also this antenna, when you first get it, this gold piece is not inserted in there. There is instructions included on this. There's an O-ring in there, and they give you a little tool. And this is basically waterproofing this antenna, I believe. All right. And so you'll have to put this in there, and you're going to want to tighten that down pretty tight. Okay. But so now what I'm going to do is you're going to stick this metal plate in first. Okay. We could stick this through. All right. And then we're going to push that just like that. Okay. Now I'm going to take my antenna. Obviously, don't mind the car is a little dirty. It's been a little dusty in my shop. We're getting some cleaning done. But so this should just thread in here. Okay. Now I want to make sure the orientation of my cable is heading in the direction that I need it to, and this is going to be pointing directly forward. Okay. And then we're going to use that little metal clasp that was down there. I'll likely have to get myself some channel locks to put on the outside, and channel locks to put on that clasp, just to make sure that I get this thing snugged down good and tight, so that way it doesn't move anywhere. And then this cable, we are going to end up feeding through here. Okay. And then I can fasten it on the inside, and there's plenty of room there for it to go to the radio directly. So I'm going to go ahead and get that tightened up, and I'll be right back. Okay, now I've already ran some wires. You can't see them yet, but what I wanted to show you is, so this is your connector that's coming from the steering wheel, okay, from your stretch cord. And so all you need to do is, there's a couple zip ties, you'll have to cut them off. Now this loom, you do not need to cut this loom. It actually opens up and you can pull these wires out. Okay, now inside here, there's 2 black wires and 1 white wire. And the reason why I say there's 2 black wires is because you need to figure out which one you need. Easiest thing to do is you could just start pulling just ever so lightly, and they're actually already terminated inside the loom just farther down. So here are those wires, black and white wire, okay? Now I went ahead and I just stripped them. I've already got some heat shrink on these things, so that way when I take them over and connect them on the other side, I can just put the heat shrink and we'll heat shrink them up. Of course, anytime you're making electrical connections, especially on anything, but especially on a race car that vibrates a lot, you always want to make sure that you get a good connection and you heat shrink, and I actually tape them as well, just as an extra redundancy. But again, you know, heat shrink is sufficient. But so I'm going to take these wires and I'm going to run them through to the other side. Obviously my radio is mounted on the other side. Now I use a couple zip ties to secure them. I'm going to move this camera over. Okay. All right, so now what I have here is I have the white and the black wire that are coming from the PTT portion of the harness that connects to the radio, or that I showed y'all in the beginning of the video. I've already went ahead and put on some butt connectors, all right? And now obviously I just ran these wires over. So now there is a red and black and there is a black and white. Now I believe 99% sure that it does not matter. You're just simply completing the circuit. However, I am gonna do black to black and white to red just because it makes the most sense to do it that way. And so I'm going to go ahead and stick these on in there. Okay, make sure that I get it in there good. And I'm going to take my crimper. Okay, always want to make sure that you get yourself lined up nice and right where you want to be. Give it a good crimp. Till you're done, always give it a good tug test. Make sure that it's going to stay. Next one, stick it in there good. Okay. Crimper. Okay, so that's 2 for 2 again, and you can see that it didn't stay. Probably need to crimp it on the next setting down to make sure that it's going to stay. All right, there we go. Okay, now that thing is in there nice and tight. Right, now at this point we can bring our heat shrink tubes on, and you just overlap them, bring the other one in, overlap it. Okay, now you can either use a heat gun, which would be the proper way, or you could use a lighter, whichever you prefer. You want to kind of rotate it around while you're doing this. You want to definitely make sure you don't burn the wires, especially considering these wires coming from the harness are very thin. Okay, but you can see that they shrunk down pretty good. All right, so that is sufficient. I'm going to let these just cool down for a minute before I tape them up. But then I will tape them up, electrical tape them together, and then I'll just zip tie this wire to secure it, so that way it looks nice and pretty. And that is how we wire in the PTT button. Okay, and so I just got this all put back together, and as we can see right here, I've got the loom, all the wires tucked back in, zip tied, got the white and the black running across where we just made our connection. It's heat shrunk, taped, zip tied, again, everything nice, neat. Obviously we have our wire running under to our antenna, which is also mounted tight. That other PTT wire runs down and into the cockpit here, which I will show you now. So then as we can see here, I've got the radio, you've got your other wires, you've got your IMSA cord, everything, your antenna, wires running up, everything nice and neat, zip tied, okay. And so now the PTT button will work your radio. And that's easily removable. You could just pull that right up out of the box, the radio right up out of the box, disconnect your antenna wire, disconnect your plug, and you're good to go. I did just run a 24-hour race at VIR, and we were able to use the same radio in the car for almost 24 hours. I think it lasted probably about 19 or 20 before it started going low battery, and we had to swap it out or swap a new battery in. But they'll definitely last you an entire weekend of racing, so no need to remove and install it but one time. And so no reason, in my opinion, to try to hardwire some sort of charging device or something like that to a car like this. There's just no point. But anyway, with that said, thanks for watching. Again, if you have any questions, just hit it up in the comments, reach out to me personally. Obviously, I'm on the community page pretty actively. Always here to help. I've got some more videos coming, changing a sprocket. I'll be running at VIR after this coming weekend at CMP, and so I'm going to need to change my sprocket. So I'll make a video showing you how to do that. And if anybody else has any videos or anything they would have questions about or would like me to make a video about, just shoot me a message, leave something in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe, please. I really appreciate it. Thanks.